There you go.
Hey, everybody,
Hey.
welcome to What's Your Point Overtime. We got more to discuss. And since tomorrow Belle got shortchanged on a couple of segments, I'm going to let her start with whatever you want to talk about.
What I'd like to talk about is that when I was told that the state was having a special session, I really had hoped that they would take a look at the grid. Not only did I want them to take a look at the grid, I wanted us as citizens to find out who ERCOT donated to and who was going to protect them come hell or high water. But since we've had several special sessions and this ain't made the cut one time, I know who's getting paid by ERCOT. But nevertheless, we want to talk about women's bodies. We want to talk about children's bodies. Now, let me be clear about this. When you're telling me that they want to make a mandate about transsexual students and what sports team they play on and everything, I thought UIL handled that, because I, as a person who attended the University of Houston and met some of the most wonderful volleyball and basketball women, because they lived in the dorm with me, they made it to the Olympics. It is concerning to me that a young girl who's played softball her whole life, or volleyball her whole life, gets to her senior year, and this person who has finally decided, I'm going to come out, I'm transsexual, and I want to play on the women's volleyball team, and they knock this girl out of a scholarship. I have a problem with that. Now, I don't know how they're going to fix it, and I don't really care, but I don't think it's the governor's job to do that. I don't think that's his job at all. Now, secondly, when it comes to the abortion, I really don't think that we as Texans should be able to tell a woman at 6 weeks, your time is up. Since most of the times I have several children, I didn't even know I was pregnant till I was, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, I don't even remember. But give me a break here. We really got a lot of real issues we should be spending our time talking about that we are not. And those are the things like the dioxin in San Jacinto. That's crucial. And when Bill just said, if we hit a hurricane, I'm so sorry, God knows I am, for the people that Ida hit. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't praying. Ida, please don't come to Texas. Ida, wherever you're going to take your ass, don't come here. I was praying that. And whatever that is out in the Gulf now, I'm saying, look, dissipate or whatever, but don't come here, because we ain't ready. We're not ready. We're not even close to ready. You still see blue tops from Harvey. You still see blue tops from the freeze in February. We ain't ready. We need to be cleaning up our own house before we even get into somebody else's underwear. Thank you.
All right. Even though I was at the center of it, Bill, Holly, Charles all wrote about what happened at Commissioner's Court, what's going to happen next Tuesday. How does this story advance, Bill?
Well, I don't know. I got a call from a Texas Monthly reporter that's talking about writing a story about this. I think this is kind of the first chink in Hidalgo's armor of, she's the good process, good government, honest, transparent, all of that, which was always, mostly a bunch of hype. But this one really exposed it in a very raw way, because they went too far. And so I don't know exactly how this is going to play out. Look, if I were a prosecutor, I could easily bring some criminal charges based on what happened. There were clearly false documents that were created on this. The documents that were posted in the public said that Elevate Strategies won the bid and that they met all the requirements. And those statements were absolutely false. And so that's a crime in Texas. So you could go prosecute that. Now, those were made by the purchasing department. And I suspect that once you charge somebody in the purchasing department, suddenly you would hear about, how they came to make those representations. And I haven't seen all the emails. Maybe Holly's got some information, but I hear that there's some emails out there that really implicate her staff on this. I think it's one thing that's going to be interesting to see is if at some point she starts throwing her own staff under the bus and saying, wait a minute, I didn't realize my staff was off doing all these things. So look, I don't think this is over by a long shot. And so it'll be really interesting to see exactly how it plays out legally from this point forward.
Look, can you imagine a scenario if someone who identified as a Republican won the bid, there were a single person entity, and hired Alan Blakemore and Carl Rove to do the outreach program.
No,
I
it
think
would just-
Democrats
yeah,
might go bazonkers.
of course.
Holly, I'll throw that to you.
Yes, I was just talking to someone the other day. What if it, was someone who had, I don't know, orchestrated the Ted Cruz campaign? There would be, people's hair would be on fire if that person had been given a contract like this to conduct this kind of work. There are some emails that were exchanged between Hidalgo's staff and the purchasing agent that are very concerning, that look at some altering of the standards for bidding on the project. And I think those are going to be of great interest to the public and possibly to law enforcement agencies. I don't know. And then for Hidalgo to come back and claim that she's canceling the contract because it's become too politicized. Wow, that's an interesting statement. I do know that her communications director does come from the Obama administration, and so they're working on crafting some messages to deal with this. But I don't think you can push this under the rug. There are too many questions. There's too much of a trail of communication that we can look at and be very concerned.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead, Bill.
Here's the thing that really I find so offensive about this. Look, I think everybody knows I'm a huge proponent of vaccines. I believe they work. I believe everybody ought to get one. And I think that they're the way out of this epidemic. The truth of the matter is the people that are not getting vaccinated are young people and poor people. Forget all the partisan bullshit. It's young people and poor people that are not getting vaccinated. Those people in this city are largely served by the FQHCs. If you really wanted to do something to get people vaccinated, what you would do is fund an outreach program by the FQHCs so that they could contact every one of their clients that regularly go there and say, hey, look, we see you haven't gotten the vaccine. We've got it here. Could you come in? We'll come out and give it to you. If you funded that kind of program, you would actually be reaching the people that really need this. And look, the fact that they decided to run this political scam, as opposed to absolutely doing something that we know would have increased the vaccination rates among the people that are not getting vaccinated, show that they don't give a damn about COVID. What they give a damn about is getting reelected. That's both parties, by the way.
Okay, let's talk about getting reelected, because I've talked to smart political people who say in her own Democratic primary, Lina Hidalgo is, let's say, could be beaten by a very strong Harris County Democrat who happens to be African American. You hear anything about that tomorrow?
Yes. I've been asked to give names. I've contacted people. I promised to cook for them for a year if they run. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm desperately, because it's funny you bring that up. And I'm gonna tell you one of the reasons that you all may not know that people feel that this can happen to her. Apparently, she had a luncheon with an African American political group back in May, and they asked her, why has she gotten rid of 99% of her African American staff? You talk about a damn deer in the headlight. She had no idea they knew. Now that does not look good when there's no way in the hell you would have won without African American support. Now, I don't know if she was doing that based on who she had leading her workforce. I have no idea, but she is extremely vulnerable. And I don't believe this was the first ding in her armor, because you see, she was a part of the group that removed the two African-American females who were handled, one is county clerk, one is county assessor, took all of their responsibilities and gave them to a Hispanic lady to run. So this is not the first ding in her armor for a portion of this city. I'm telling you, that is voter suppression, because both of those people were elected to those tasks, and because they weren't the people they wanted to win, they removed them. So no, she has a lot of dings in her armor. I've even heard of an African-American Republican girl that's running, that's gonna be running against her.
In the Kingwood School. She's on the Kingwood School Board.
Humble School Board.
Humble School Board
Yeah,
president.
yeah. Not only that, she's on the appraisal district. I just can't think of the name right now, but yes, she is very vulnerable. But I just think Harris County needs to look at this, because Bill hit it on the head. From day one, when they set up the NRG, I begged them to go mobile because only way you could get the vaccine was drive through. Everybody don't have a car. A lot of people don't have cars. But if you made it a mobile site where you could go to the neighborhood park or do something like that, you could have made the vaccine more in the communities where they could get to them. Because believe it or not, a lot of neighborhoods don't have a CVS. They don't have Walgreens. They don't have grocery stores. This is something, if you really cared, you would put it where they are. Put it outside the clubs and stuff. Because Bill is right. It's people under 50, under 40, or 30. Because when you 28, you honestly believe you bulletproof. I'm a witness. I was the same way. You figure ain't nothing gonna hurt you. You good. So if they really cared, really, really cared, they would have took this to what it needed to be, and that's to the streets. But
I want to go to Charles real quick. Hold on, Charles. Look, we reported some polling done by Mark Jones in the Hobby Center that she had pretty high positives among her Democratic primary voters. Do you think what has unfolded over the last 6 months, the intensification of the crime wave, more and more victims of people out on bond? She has been a very strong vocal proponent for bond reform and the extension of that, and emptying the jails as much as possible. You tie also this latest situation, this problem. Do you think she's more vulnerable?
I mean, certainly more vulnerable than she was at that time. I mean, since then you've had, when Acevedo was still here, he started coming out and speaking out against what they were doing to the county. Turner has now done so. He was reluctant for a while to kind of really put the blame there. Other Democrats have started to be a little more outspoken. So I think it's changed. And I think the problem is that a lot of the issues that we've had at the county have long been chalked up to inexperience. And now we're starting to see that there's actually an ethical issue and that there's actually a credibility issue there. I mean, even with the crime, she's still doubling down. It's not like she just came back and said, yeah, we tried this, it didn't work, we're going to try something else. Just still doubling down on it. With this issue with the contract, she didn't come back and say, you know what, I realized what we did was wrong or improper, we should try to change up. It's, no, this was political, I had no involvement in it, but my chief of staff actually had involvement in it. And, there's this degree of separation. It's not an experience anymore. Now it's a credibility and an ethical issue. And I saw on a blog, a Democratic blog, that was saying that if she wants to get over this, she needs to fire her chief of staff. Otherwise, it's still going to reflect on her. Very much so, because either she's condoning his involvement in this or she's just letting her staff run amok. Which one is it? Because neither one looks great. And so I think we're really starting to see, and that's what I think when Bill said this is kind of the first chink in her armor, I think in terms of like directly calling her ethics and her credibility into question, I think this is it, because she has not really she's gotten a lot of passes since she's been elected, a lot of passes that other elected officials would not and have not gotten. And I think that this really goes to show that she's not learning things the way that she should be learning them or from the right people because she's taking some bad advice, or it's just her own intuition that's leading her down this path. Neither one of those are good either. And so I think it makes her more vulnerable. I think there are Democrats who may have considered previously running but didn't think there was a chance might now start to see some kind of cracks there as an opportunity. And I think, this does offer an opportunity for Republicans to at least make an attempt to come back. I mean, I think Martina Dixon provides a really great opportunity for Harris County Republicans. We'll see what happens, but there's going to be more. I mean, this isn't over, and there's going to be more that comes out about other things as well. And so she's going to have a hard time combating some of this stuff unless she cleans up her act. And she clearly cannot own her issues because she pushed it off on Cagle. She blamed him. She called him a liar. She said she had no involvement. There's no responsibility there. There's just no responsibility for it. And I think people don't buy that.
Okay, Chow, hold on. Chow, put your journalist hat on. And I'm not going to ask you to comment specifically on the merits of this, but you kind of gave me the impression you think she can pinch this off in 1 or 2 news cycles. Now you've heard the entire panel. It doesn't sound like people are stopping asking for their requests for documents. Doesn't sound as if this story is quite done yet. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you as a journalist, Greg, and other journalists have a responsibility and a right to continue to ask and dig and those tough questions. And from what I can see, they're answering as many tough questions as possible, given the editorial board's comments and sort of like going down that rabbit trail and saying, here's what the chief of staff side said, here's what Lena's side said. And I think Lena is going to welcome the questions and the inquiry and the query about what's going on. And if she's honest and if her intentions are good, as she said, I'm running a transparent administration. I want to be honest about this. Let her be honest.
No, she ain't running a transparent damn thing.
Well,
If she would have covered this, her ass would have covered this. This guy came, let me tell you how this got brought out. This got brought out by the purchasing and the people who were a part of the process, who felt processed, who worked at the county. Not because of her people, not for anybody in her office. And yes, she gonna deflect to her new chief of staff because she on her second one for her first term, because that's where she figured it won't land on her. Ain't no way in hell this person went out and picked that lady without Lena saying, hey, look, this is, y'all not that dumb and y'all ain't that damn naive. This was her gumbo. She cooked, she put everything in there. Now she's saying, oh, damn, it tastes bad. It's the stove. It ain't the stove. Hell, it's you.
Well, and
I'm sorry, Charles. This is the issue of the day, but there are several other issues that I think are boiling up, right? We have the issue of the elections administrator, which tomorrow mentioned, and taking that away from some elected personnel. Now we have this county administrator, and they're trying to add this other layer of bureaucracy, but people are asking questions. And, you know, again, we go back to Cagle referring to this county administrator as the supreme bureaucrat, I think, and that's kind of funny. But he's making a point there. There's this bureaucrat that's shielding these elected officials, but I think people are seeing through it. There's another big issue that's about to come up. The county's been working with this consulting group out of the Northeast, PFM Consulting. There's a lot of concerns about the kinds of things that they're recommending.
That's
There's
the same one the city used.
They're gonna be looking at this report, and it looks like they're getting ready to advocate getting rid of all of the constables in Harris County. I don't think that's going to play well with these communities that are being overly affected by the crime rate. That we saw this. What was it in? Was it 2020 when Garcia was talking about, you know, ending those constable contracts, and we saw an outpouring from the community. I think tomorrow you were there testifying on that issue. The community doesn't want that, and that's bipartisan. That is not a, you know, a Republican versus Democrat thing. It crosses party lines for sure.
I don't think a Republican can win countywide, but I think that a high-profile African-American candidate in the Democratic primary would really give her fits. I mean, all politics is local. And frankly, nobody knows anything about this lady. I mean, we don't know anything about her family, don't know where she lives. She's not on the property tax rolls. And she's brought in all these people from out of state to run Harris County. And it's really rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And I think that if you had, you know, somebody, you know, some high profile African-American candidate, and you would have a real horse race over there. The interesting thing in that race would be to see what Rodney does. Would Rodney try to really go out and rally the troops for her, or which would, you know, jeopardize his base in the African-American community, or would he just sit quietly and not do anything? The other thing I do think that people are overlooking is that Adrian is up for re-election this time around, and that is very much a swing district. I'm not sure how much they can help him in the redistricting process, but I can tell you there's a couple of strong Republican candidates out there already, and he has zero support once you get outside the city of Houston. Once you get down to Clear Lake and LaPorte and Baytown and all those places, you know, they're going to go heavily for whoever the Republican nominee is. And so I think you're going to have a very close election out there in that precinct this time as well. So there's a lot that could potentially change in the 22 election at Commissioner's Court.
And you're right, Bill, on that one. And he lost a lot of African-American support because he did the same thing. He brought in a lot of the people because he had Pleasantville and he had the north side, had those people coming out in droves, and he put them in positions, but then he got rid of all of them. He went back and hired a couple other African-Americans, but I don't think he's going to have the voter support turnout that did because they feel like he neglected them.
He's made a lot of people angry in that precinct.
Mr. Mouton, the mayor of Deer Park, that guy has a lot of He has a lot of across
Well, and
board.
Manlove, Manlove was a very popular mayor of Pasadena too, and he's got an advertising background. He's got money. I mean, but there's and that race will be close. That's a swing district. I don't know how much they can affect it on redistricting. That's the only thing I'm not sure about.
Charles, you had something to say. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead. Have you forgotten it? It was key.
No. I don't even remember what. Yeah, I have no idea what it was. I just think that, yeah, I mean, going into this election, Lena has truly, and I think what Holly's saying with this new proposal now for the deputies, which is just, I mean, kind of a continuation on their attack on the constables, but they have remade county government just in the years that she's been off. I mean, they have the elections administrator, the county administrator, the broadband office, the office of economic and opportunity and equity. There's an office of sustainability, all created under her. I mean, it looks nothing like it did when she took office. And I think it's going to continue that. And these PFM folks are in large part responsible for most of that, those changes. And so really, I think it's going to take making her own a lot of this stuff. And I'm glad to finally see, I think this issue that we just dealt with the contract was an issue that actually, everybody was on the same page. They talked about it. They asked questions. They followed it. The public was engaged in it, and it worked. That's how government should work. It should be responsive, and it worked. And so I hope people stay on top of everything that comes out of that office, because she's gotten a pass for far too long.
And a
I'm
lot of
going to
people
break a little
are
news
from out
here.
of state.
Hold on. Let me break a little news here. I have a very good source that Garcia is probably going to propose a slight reduction in the Harris County tax rate to shore up his support, and maybe preempt what we saw last time when the Republicans on the court walked out in order to prevent a tax hike. Now, I think the tax rate has been held pretty stable because you start raising taxes in an election year, and that's like politics 101. So it could be a pretty sharp preemptive move by Adrian. But let's face it, if I'm running that campaign, you're running it on public safety, and you're running it on, essentially now integrity. Somebody who has hauled themselves beyond reproach is suddenly just human, just another politician. And so, we'll see what happens. Has anybody heard anything about C.O. Bradford's interest? Is he interested?
I tell you what, he would be a tough challenger for her on the Democratic
Would
side.
help him. Hell, I would help him. I'm not kidding.
He would have a lot of support.
I would help him. I would help him. I would help Bill King. Y'all know that guy named Bill King? Should I help him?
Yeah. I could just see me getting through either primary, I mean, the Harris County Republican Party wouldn't endorse me for mayor over Tony Busby and Sylvester Turner because I wasn't conservative enough. So that ought to tell you how well I do in primaries.
You run
Hey,
as
Chow, are you getting any emails or messages over there?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Like, push back on these guys.
It's been all positive.
No, run as a Sam candidate. Don't worry about that. Run as a Sam. Look, y'all don't understand. This will be the first county judge election where there's no straight ticket. Now, look, in the past, when you looked at the undervote was enough to swing every race we ever had. Because people get sick of punching that button. That's why it cracks me up that we got some write-in candidates. Hell, people don't want to push a button. You think they're going to sit there and write your damn name? Get real.
It'd really put Rodney in a difficult position tomorrow. Is he going to endorse Lena Hidalgo over, Bradford? I just think that would be so tough for him to do in y'all's community. I would find that really fascinating to see how that dynamic plays out.
Hey,
and who knows? He might be under indictment next year. I don't know if you saw Mario had another story. I mean, that story continues to get worse every time you hear something about it.
Yes.
Hey, here's a little bit more of what I like to call gossip, the lifeblood of emerging fact. Except I forgot.
Or imagined facts.
Oh, yeah, I know what it was. I'm hearing we may only have 4 members of Commissioner Court on the panel on Tuesday. Wonder what
I heard that too. Yeah, I heard one of the Democrats thinking about not showing up. I heard that got. Yeah, I heard that too. I don't know if that's a rumor or a truma. See, I got semi-true, so I don't know if that's a truma or a rumor. But yeah, I heard one of the Democratic candidates is planning on not showing up. So we will see. Yes. Yeah, I heard
Holly,
that.
what are you going to be looking for?
Rats deserting a sinking ship.
Okay.
Holly, what are you going to be looking for Tuesday?
I'm definitely going to be looking for what, how they're going to go about canceling this contract, but I'm also very interested to see how this report is handled that is recommending sort of preempting our elected constables and how they're going to address public safety issues. I mean, we continue to talk about how we're going to handle that, and you've got Hidalgo and Ellis talking about, expanding the courts, and of course, we do need to address this backlog in some of these courts that are not holding any jury trials at all. I mean, that has to be handled. But at the same time, we've got people out there in the community who are, old ladies getting stabbed or killed as they're coming in and out of Walgreens. And, there's serious concerns. Right. Oh, gosh, awful story.
Domestic violence was really bad.
Yeah, Chow, give us a sense of, when you have victims, you're counseling them, you're supporting them.
Yeah.
And the cases get kicked and kicked again. And it goes on and on. Is that a traumatic process for them? We know going to court, testifying against their attackers can be a traumatizing, re-traumatizing situation. I mean, are these delays hurting the process?
It's hurting, and it's putting women at risk. The longer you wait, sometimes, look, it takes 7 to 8 times to return to your abuser right before you leave your abuser. And a lot of times, love is a complicated thing, and abuse is a complicated thing, and women stay. It's not our place to judge them. It's our place to support them and give them tools so that they know that they have options, right? A lot of people don't feel like they have options, and then it puts them at risk. I mean, what did we see? The young woman at the Marriott Marquis was shot, was gunned down, and she did everything right. She had a protective order. She left her abuser. The attorney for the suspect said, oh, they were in a toxic relationship. She did everything right. She couldn't protect herself. And the other thing we don't talk about are these guns that are at the hands of bad people killing women. We don't talk about that.
I'm telling you, Chow, the people that I know that are buying guns right now are women. I can't tell you how many women I know are carrying guns in their purse these days.
Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, just regular, women that don't, I'm not talking about NRA nuts or anything. I'm talking about people, just regular women I know, who I'm shocked when they open up their purse and there's a 38 special in there.
Because what we're hearing is we're in danger.
Right.
Because we can do everything we can to protect ourselves and have a safety plan. This is all I talk about, is have a safety plan. Know that you're 500% at risk if there's a gun in the house and you're living with an abuser. You're 5 times more likely. But how do we prevent cases where you do everything right? In the case of that young woman
put him in jail and keep him in jail.
Well, he was in jail. He went, everything was done. He went to jail. 112 days, he got out,
That's so sad.
All right, everybody, I'm going to do something that is part of What's Your Point tradition. What did we miss? Starting with you, Charles. What did we miss this week?
Can I go last?
Holly Hansen, anything that we missed? Anything on what else is on your radar?
Well, we're looking at this conflict over the abortion law, and I thought it was really interesting that the Satanic Temple is requesting the federal government will give them a religious exemption from any abortion restrictions, because they say the abortion process is part of their ritual and their religious freedom. So I thought that was a pretty curious story.
Charles, back to you. You got anything?
Yes. I remember I got something. So this Biden reconciliation plan, I think it's like $3.5 trillion, is going to be one of the largest expansions of, social programs since probably the 60s. And it's going to be a huge deal. I think everybody needs to pay attention to it.
All right.
And we're talking about real grave expenses.
Okay.
So I actually, I hate to even talk about the abortion issue because there's not anybody persuadable on it. the polling shows there's 15% of the people think that you ought to have an abortion having want to, 15% of people think you should never have an abortion. And the 60 or 70% of us in the middle say there ought to be some restrictions at some point in time, but nobody can really exactly agree when that ought to be. And by the way, the polling on that's been the same for 60 or 70 years now. But I sat down and read the abortion law this week just because I wanted to know what was in it. And I was surprised it was not at all what I thought it was, and certainly not what's being reported in the press. It prohibits a doctor from performing an abortion unless the doctor performs a heartbeat detection test and finds that there's no heartbeat. Okay, none of that is a defined term. And so I started trying to look into the biology of it some, and it turns out that, what exactly constitutes a heartbeat is not there's not a medical standard for that. And this idea that it starts at 6 weeks is basically at that point in time, what has happened is there's two tubes that become the heart that at about between 5 and 6 weeks, they begin to merge. And when they merge, it sets off some cells in those tubes that start pulsating electronically. Now, that can be measured with the right equipment, but it wouldn't be available in any regular doctor's office or hospital or anything. They then twist and they form the 4 chambers of the heart between about week 6 and about week 12. And so really it's about week 10 or 12 is the first time that you can really detect a heartbeat on a sonogram or listen to it with a stethoscope or something, the sort of normal ways we would detect a heartbeat. So if that ends up being the standard, Libby Salim did this story in the Chronicle, which was actually quite interesting. She found a big state database about all the breakdown of abortion, and I finally found it myself. 86% of abortions are performed before the 8th week. And so it's kind of hard to see how this law would affect those 86% of the abortions, because there's really not any way to detect the heartbeat without going through some really very extensive testing that's not available at most medical places. So you're really talking about a relatively small portion. The law also has in it an exception for medical emergencies, and that's not a defined term. So if the doctor certifies that I couldn't find a heartbeat, or if there's a medical, it's basically a free pass. Now, that could be challenged in a private lawsuit, but the problem is to challenge it, you would have to get the medical records to do that, which of course are protected by HIPAA. So I don't see how anyone ever prosecutes one of these cases. I mean, just trying to sit down and put my plaintiff's lawyer hat on for a second. If somebody came and asked me to file one of these lawsuits, how would you go about prosecuting it? I don't see any way to do it. So I think eventually this is going to sort of thrash itself out a little bit. And I suspect it's going to end up not really, I mean, there may be some chilling effect right now. And I think there's some clinics that have closed, some that haven't. But my guess is at the end of the day, it doesn't really have much effect. That's my initial read on it anyway.
That's not what I'm hearing and we're witnessing. I mean, there are many, many women reaching out and calling clinics, the 24 clinics statewide, and seeking help outside of the state, Bill.
No, I think it'll have some effect short term, but I'm saying once people sort of understand what's in the law, and look, places like Planned Parenthood, they're going to have so much more legal firepower on their side of this than the pro-life people are going to have. There'll be 1 or 2 of these cases where the pro-life side is going to get absolutely slammed because there's just no way to prove the case. And so it'll have some chilling effect in the short term, but I'm saying in the long term, I don't think it's going to have that much effect. That's my guess right now.
Okay, tomorrow, what do we miss?
Let me tell you all what we missed. And we haven't missed it because we recognize it, we know about it and everything, but the continuation, and that is the giving heart of Mattress Mac. Daily, you guys. He is sending box trucks to Louisiana to help those people affected by Ida. We should all give him a big hand because you just can't find that kind of generosity this day and time. People just don't care when it's not them. And Kathy Griffin has been over there helping him every day load these trucks up. And he's paying box drivers to go over there and deliver that. So I just want to give kudos because you know, we go on about our daily lives, and if it's not a disaster that we deal, we may give, you know, the first day or whatever, but he is still sending trucks over there, and he's such an amazing man, and Houston is so blessed to have him in our community. Also, he's on our side against I-45, so you know he all right with me.
All right, Chow, you kind of spoke out there. Was there anything you wanted to add?
You know, we're keeping an eye on the rising rates of domestic violence. The mayor called our CEO this week and said, we've got to do more. So we're coming up with a 4-point plan. We need everyone's involvement, enlistment. It's not just awareness, it's support. It's knowing that help is out there. I think a lot of women don't know they're in danger until it's too late. They don't know how to protect themselves. And I hate that the onus is always on the victim and the survivor. But like you said, Bill, women are carrying guns. They got to be aware of their surroundings. They need to know that their perpetrator is probably, I'm sure that young woman didn't think that she was going to get killed in the lobby of a Marriott Marquis.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, that one was a hard one, but I knew that family. I said, that's a relative. They killed those four.
Chow made that point earlier. It's almost always a relative or friend. I mean,
these are random
most
crimes.
victims know the perpetrator.
Yep.
And women need to know that the criminal justice system will act on their behalf too.
Well, and that's the tragedy, Holly, is if you look at the stats when it comes to sexual assault prosecution, the disposition, felony convictions, they're few and far between, not to mention that it's already underreported. You got 90% of all sexual assaults underreported because of criminal, just having to endure the criminal justice system, the shame, the stigma.
That's the one right there, child, because they always try to figure out, did I do something? Is this my fault? Did I whip my head the wrong way today? I mean, they deal with the guilt of it, and they don't report it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Congrats to Holly on her first full broadcast session on What's Your Point. We hope to have her back. Cal, we didn't congratulate you, but you keep coming back, so that means
She's fantastic.
Showing up like a bad penny, just keep showing up.
I know, it's like TV I left TV, 13 years ago, and I swear over the years, I just keep on creeping back. And this is like my 3rd tour at Fox 26, don't you know, Greg? I started there as a young college student. I went back as a reporter, and here I am.
Awesome. Hey, everybody, have a safe and healthy week. I appreciate you all.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your intellect, your passion with our audience. I think they appreciate you too. Have a great week.
Have a good
Thanks.
week.